So yesterday we wanted to see the topic DXC because we haven't seen we have discussed the theory part in the DXC, but we haven't seen the practical. So today we will see the practical for DXC. So just I'll recap for 10 minutes and then I'll start with the practical. So DXC stands for Direct Extractor Connection. DXC is mainly used when you have systems like BW, data sources or extractors which are created on the ECC are replicated to BW, and these data sources provide information to information providers or info providers. On top of these info providers, business generate reports. So what we are going to see today now is we have an ECC system, and then we have BW. So between ECC and BW, we establish a connection which is known as an RFC connection. Once the RFC connection is established, in ECC we have data sources. These data sources can be standard or they can be customized. These data sources are replicated to BW. And these data sources further provide information to different info providers. On top of these info providers, business generate reports. But BW being an enterprise data warehousing solution, and BW is residing on the database MS SQL or DB2. Now, because of the slow performance of the reports, now newly we implemented HANA as a sidecar scenario. So now from HANA to ECC, we establish a HTTP connection. This HTTP connection is created in the T code SM59. And here you have HANA. The HTTP connection created in SM59. So when these data sources replicate to BW, when DXC is enabled, DXC is nothing but a connection to the source system. When DXC is enabled, we have a table called RS admin table. The name of the table is RS admin. So this table consists of parameters like name of the schema in HANA, the connection which is used as a HTTP connection. So this is the name of the HTTP connection, and in HANA we have a schema. Now once you specify the properties in RS admin, when the data source is replicated to BW and when the data source is activated in BW, immediately in HANA, we have a schema. So under the schema, you have different tables. So you have tables like 00, 40, 70, 80, AO. Whenever you activate data source in BW, these data sources create in a schema called DXC schema. In a DXC schema, these tables are created when the data source is activated. These 5 tables are created under the schema. So these combination of tables are known as in-memory DSO. This combination of tables are known as in-memory DSO. So once the in-memory DSO has been created, is created, in the source system, in the BW system, we create a package called info package. This info package is responsible to trigger the data source. This data source sends request to the source system. In the source system, this data source is triggered. And after triggering, the data out of this data source from using the HTTP connection, first it goes to the 40 table. In the 40 table, the data gets activated. This 40 table is known as the activation queue table. Now once the data gets activated, the data finally available in the 00 table. On top of 00 table, we can do reporting. The same data source which is supplying data to these reports, now here we can generate reports in BOBI. So these reports generate based on MS SQL DB, and here the reports are generated based on HANA database. So DXC is basically used to bypass data which usually goes to BW to 40 table, which is an in-memory DSO. From 40 table to 00 table, the data gets activated and further available in the reporting. So this is the total concept of DXC. So first what we will see is, we will see the RS admin table. Inside the RS admin table, what are the parameters available? Let us log on to ECC. Double click on the ECC. Let's provide the username and password. go to S11. Let's go to RS admin. Click display. Click contents. Click execute. Now here we see two parameters. One is PSA to HDB destination, which is an RFC connection, and the schema is the DXC schema. The parameter that we have is the DXC RFC, and the name of the schema is the DXC schema. So now we'll go to DXC RFC. The connection is already created in SM59. Create session. SM59. Enter. Search for the connection. This is the connection. This connection is already created. Click on connection test. Click on response body. Now once you click on the connection, it's able to ping the source system. Come back. Once the connection is established, we go to HANA. Let's go to HANA Studio. Expand the catalog. Under the catalog, you find the schema, DXC schema. Under the DXC schema, if you expand, if you go to the tables, so here you find all the tables that are relevant for DXC. So whenever I activate data source in BW, in this schema, the in-memory DSO is created. So now I'll go back to ECC and I'll create a data source. Create session. Let's create a data source in RSO2. Let's give the name for the data source. Click create. Give the application component. Give the name of the table, CE1 IDEA. I'm creating data source based on this table. Click save. Once you click save, you get a message, data source successfully created. Click local object and finally click on save. You get a message, data source has been saved successfully. So once you get this message, now let's replicate the data source. I'm sorry for that. I think I got muted. Now once we activate the data source, you'll get a message saying the data source is activated. Now once the data source is activated, you basically need to go to RSA1T code. Let's go to RSA1 transaction code. Go to the source system. Double click on T90 CL90 and you can find for the data source. So let's find for the data source. Give the data source name and click on search. Now once we click on search, because the data source we found the data source in the search. So once the data source is available in BW, now with the same name as data source, if you search with the same technical name as data source, if you go to HANA, let's go to HANA. In the DXC schema, when you right click on the tables, click filter, give the data source name, click whole word and click OK. Let us search again, or let us search manually. Probably we'll just search manually. It is Jet Copa. So I think this is the one. This is the one. Jet Copa actual data. So in here, if you see, there are 5 tables that are generated by system. Did actual Copa data. This is one table here, and the other table So here you have jet Copa underscore actual underscore data 00, 40, 70, 80, at the bottom you have another table called AO. So these 5 tables are generated by system once data source is activated. So if you double click on the table, so this is basically the structure of the CE1 IDA table. The same structure of the CE1 IDA table, it creates these 5 tables. So first the data, if you right click and open data preview on the 40 table, and then if you see, the table is empty. So now once we execute the info package, if we go back to BW and execute the info package, right click, first we need to create info package. Click on create info package, give the technical name for the info package, click on save. So once we click on save, the info package is created. Click on schedule, and finally click on start. So once you click on start, now you get a message, data was requested. Now once you execute this info package, now what HANA does is, it basically triggers the data from the source system. So first the data is available in the 40 table. First the data comes to the 40 table. Internally there is an activation process that is executed by the system, and finally the data reaches a 00 table. So if we go back to HANA Studio, go to data source, right click and open data preview. Once you click on open data preview, the data is finally available in the 00 table. So the step number 1 is to create a custom data source in RSO2, replicate the data source using RSDS transaction code, activate the data source. At the time of activation, these tables are created in HANA database, which are 0040, 70, 80 and AO. Once the data source is replicated, activated, and then create info package, execute the info package. The data is requested from ECC, and it basically transferred via the HTTP connection. Once the info package is executed, it goes to the source system, triggers the data source via the HTTP connection, data first available in 40, and finally reaches the 00 table. Now once the data is reached to the 00 table, now based on this table, I can go to content, expand the content. Let's go to the package. Right click on any of the package, click new, and click on the analytic view. Now once we click on the analytic view, now we can create an analytic view based on this table. Click finish, add this table to the data foundation, click on the plus icon, give the table name, select the table, click OK. So here you see the table, and you can select the required columns of a table. So what are the columns that you require, you can just select. Click on find. Now once you select the required columns, these columns are available in the semantics. Click validate. And finally save and activate. Now once this is done, now here the view which contains the data, so this view, once it executed, it brings the required data to the output. So what are the columns that you require? So you can select the required columns and then generate reports on top of this data source. So the point over here is, instead of generating the reports on the BW, the same data, once it is available in HANA we can generate reports and integrate with BOBI, Business Objects, Business Intelligence applications. So this is the whole concept of DXC. We discussed in the previous classes, but we did not see the practical due to the user ID and password issue. If any other topics you require, please let me know. I can discuss. So DXC is only used when you have BW, otherwise we cannot use DXC. DXC can be used in a scenario only when you have BW in your landscape. So most of the clients who do not have BW cannot use DXC. They can directly replicate the base tables. The advantage of using DXC is, whatever the custom data sources or standard data sources which are already available which are very rich in business logic. So those data sources can be replicated to HANA without any additional modeling. A data source itself denormalized data. So the denormalized data can be simply brought into HANA without any additional effort. So when we created decision tables, we see how we have created the stored procedures are created. So project scenario documents I already uploaded. So you can do some practicals on it. And I also shown you more than 1000 calculation views. In the last week, I've shown you more than 1000 calculation views. So you can practice those exercises. And each calculation view has a specific name. You can search that calculation view technical name in Google. It will tell you why this particular calculation view is used and what is the importance of the calculation view.